It's 2010, the Women's T20 World Cup, Warner Park St. Kitts. West Indies are in trouble. They're 52 for 4, with half the batting gone and not even in the second half of the innings yet. South Africa has them exactly where they want them. And then she walks out. She's 18 years old and has played fewer than 30 international matches. In the next 45 balls, she went on to do something no woman had ever done in the history of T20 international cricket. She hits 9 sixes and ends on 112 not out. And in doing so, she rewrites what women's cricket is even capable of. She is Deandra Dottin. Growing up in Rock Hall, a small village in the parish of St. Andrew in Barbados, Deandra was largely raised by her mother, Melva, after losing her father when she was just 12 years old. She had brothers, and she played informal cricket on the streets just like most Caribbean kids. But her real passion was track and field, and she wasn't just good at it. She was exceptional. Between the ages of 14 and 17, she competed at the Carifta Games, the Caribbean's premier junior athletics competition, and thrived. She threw everything in sight: discus, javelin, shot put. The events that demanded raw, explosive power. In 2007, when she was just 16, she won 3 gold medals at the Carifta Games in each of those events. The woman who had gone to hit the longest sixes in women's cricket was already, before she'd even played a serious game of cricket, an elite power athlete. She was spotted playing a casual game by fellow West Indies player Pamela Levine, and the transition then was rapid. The strength, hand-eye coordination and explosive athleticism she built as a teenager didn't go anywhere. She just redirected it all at a cricket ball. She made her international debut in 2008, and by the 2009 Women's T20 World Cup, she was already producing glimpses, including the fastest half-century by any woman in T20Is at the time, of just 22 balls against Australia. The woman that put her name on the global map came in 2010. West Indies vs South Africa at the Women's T20 World Cup. Dottin walked in at number 6 and came up with a fantastic performance, not just for the scorecard, but for what it proved. She finished on an unbeaten 112 of 45 balls with 9 sixes and 5 fours, a strike rate of 248.88. It was the first ever century in women's T20I history. More than that, it was, at that moment, the fastest T20I century by any cricketer, male or female. Chris Gale's famous 30-ball IPL ton came over 3 years later. When Dottin hit that 100, she was ahead of the entire cricketing world across genders. At this point, you might be thinking that this is just a story about a batter, a big hitter, a record breaker, and someone who plays shots that make you put your phone down. But that's only half of Deandra Dottin. With the ball, she's a right-arm fast-medium bowler with genuine pace and swing. A whippy, open-chested action that loads up and delivers with serious late movement. For a format as quick and tactical as T20 cricket, that combination of pace and swing is rare. At least that's what Smriti Mandhana had to say. She was dismissed 3 times in 6 games by Dottin when West Indies toured India in 2016. However, if you want a single moment that defines Deandra Dottin as a cricketer, it has to be that over. This time, the spotlight shifts to Eden Gardens, Kolkata. West Indies are taking on favourites and perennial giants Australia in the 2016 Women's T20 World Cup final. Australia added 147 for 3 with an over to spell and a well-set Elise Petty in the middle. Australia were eyeing the 160 run mark to post a daunting total on the board in the final. Except what followed was one of the greatest overs in a Women's T20 World Cup final. And don't worry, I haven't forgotten Elise Petty's last over heroics. Here's what transpired. Ball 1, a yorker on the leg stump. Through Petty's legs to the keeper, dot. Ball 2, attempted yorker, low full toss. Driven straight back to the bowler, another dot. Ball 3, Petty anticipates a fuller ball and premeditates the ramp. Dottin reads it and goes short of length outside off. Beaten, another dot. Ball 4, full and straight, Petty slogs across the line and is out LBW. Ball 5, full and straight again, Osborne swipes it to mid-wicket and runs for a single. The ball is thrown to Dottin, who whips the bails off in a flash. Another wicket. Ball 6, extremely full, Blackwell swipes it to mid-wicket, 1 run. At the time, it was described as the best over of the edition on one of the better batting wickets in the entire tournament. West Indies then chased down the target with Hayley Matthews, just 18 years old, anchoring the run chase to win them their first ever world title. The same evening, Carlos Brathwaite hit those 4 sixes in the men's final. It was a night the whole Caribbean lost its mind, and justifiably so. And at the heart of it all, bowling the over that swung the momentum irreversibly was Deandra Dottin. In the 2018 Women's T20 World Cup held at home, Dottin had a tournament that simply defied belief. Against Bangladesh in the opener, she bowled them out for 106, and her own figures? 5 wickets for 5 runs in a T20 international. On any given day, she would have been the headline of the tournament for that spell alone. She finished that tournament as West Indies' leading run scorer and wicket taker. There are maybe 5 cricketers in the history of the sport who could claim that kind of dual dominance in an ICC event. She was named the tournament's standout player by the ICC. A major shoulder injury in early 2019 took her almost 2 years off her bowling career, but her batting exploits continued. In September 2020, Deandra Dottin hit her 106 in Women's T20 internationals in a match against England, the first ever woman to do so. She was also the first cricketer, male or female, to reach that landmark in T20 eyes. Think about what that means, about how many times she walked to the crease in international matches and decided that the boundary rope was not good enough. It doesn't make as many headlines as the century record, but it should, because it speaks to something deeper about Dottin's career, the sustained, relentless nature of her power. It wasn't one brilliant tournament or one famous innings. It was over 100 matches worth of attacking intent, day in, day out, at the highest level of the game. And then, in August 2022, came the shock that nobody in women's cricket wanted to hear. Deandra Dottin announced her retirement midway through the Commonwealth Games while representing Barbados. She simply stepped away from international cricket. She was 31 years old and in her prime. Her reason? She cited a non-conducive environment within the West Indies setup. Being driven out of international cricket not by age or form, but by the way a board treats its players, is a story that runs deep in West Indies cricket. It's a structural problem and arguably a cultural problem, one that has cost the West Indies some of their greatest talents over the years. Here was arguably the most globally marketable women's cricketer in Caribbean history, the holder of multiple world records, a player with over 270 international appearances, someone who could fill seats and inspire a generation of young West Indian girls to pick up a bat or ball. And Cricket West Indies lost her, not to injury, not to retirement on her own terms, but to a disagreement about how she was treated. The story though doesn't end there, because in July 2024, Deandra Dottin came back. Nearly 2 years after walking away, she wrote a letter to Cricket West Indies. Representing the West Indies in international cricket has always been a matter of great pride and passion for me. I'm eager to return to the game that I love. The 2024 Women's T20 World Cup was on the horizon. West Indies needed experience, and the comeback was welcomed, not just by the board, but by the players too. CWI President Kishore Shalom said specifically that all the West Indians are excited to see Deandra Dottin back. She was 33 then. She had spent 2 years playing franchise cricket around the world. WBBL, the 100, the CPL, staying sharp, staying relevant. And she returned to help West Indies reach the semi-finals of that tournament. So, what is Deandra Dottin's legacy? Over 3,700 runs and 72 wickets in ODIs and nearly 2,700 runs and 62 wickets in T20Is. The fastest century in women's T20I history. The first 200 sixes in T20Is. A World Cup winner. Sadly, numbers still don't do enough justice. Deandra Dottin matters because of what she proved about women's cricket at a time when that proof was needed. In 2010, before the MCG crowd, before the WPL, before the multi-million-dollar broadcast deals, women's cricket was still fighting daily to be taken seriously. And there was a teenager from Barbados at a World Cup saying with her bat that you have no idea what this game is capable of. She brought a West Indian swagger to the women's game that had never existed before. Chris Gayle had the universe boss. Dottin bestowed herself with the world boss. And she owned that identity completely. Because she backed it up with one of the most remarkable all-round CVs the women's game has ever seen. There is a generation of cricketers playing today who grew up watching Deandra Dottin and thought, if she could do that, maybe I can too. You can't put a number to that. She's not the most celebrated name in women's cricket. She hasn't won as many trophies as Meg Lanning or probably scored as many runs as Mithali Raj. But how does one quantify the feeling of watching someone play cricket and thinking that I've never seen this before? If you enjoyed watching this, please subscribe to Women's Cricket Central and don't forget to like this video. I'll try my best to bring in the stories, the players, the moments that women's cricket deserves to have told properly. Drop in the comments. Where do you think Dottin ranks in the all-time greats of the women's game? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Until then, see you in the next one.